And I will just come in this direction. We have Eileen Moran, yes, the unit supervisor for the Regional Air Pollution Control Agency. Next, we have Dr. Leslie Perkins, director of the Energy Office for the Air Force Research Laboratory. Dr. Robert Brecka, research director of the Hanley Sustainability Institute here at the University of Dayton. Then Dr. Leanne Jablonski, director of Marianas Environmental Education Center, and also here at the University of Dayton. And next we have Jerry Renfro, director of Facilities and Environmental Services for the Kettering Health Network at Grandview Medical Center. And lastly, but not least, Jackson Morris, director of Eastern Energy for NRDC. Okay, and why don't we do the same thing? We'll just come this way, and about 5 minutes per panelist, and then we'll take questions.
Permitting, inspection, and enforcement programs. So, energy fuels, they directly and indirectly impact public health. Directly, two of the primary direct impacts are heart disease and asthma. This is very common knowledge, but just as little as like recently as a couple weeks ago, California EPA Office of Environmental Health Hazards Assessment released a study that showed that very tiny particles, especially those which come from fuel burning and combustion sources in vehicles, they are very strongly associated with death from heart disease caused by blocked arteries. As far as asthma goes, about 2,500 to 6,600 premature deaths per year are caused by asthma. The pollutants that are most likely associated with fuel burning are going to be nitrogen oxide, particulate matter, carbon dioxide, and sulfur dioxide. And the most susceptible populations, and even in this area, particularly in this area, tend to be very small children and the elderly. Indirectly, fuel burning is going to contribute to global warming, which is going to lead to longer allergy seasons and more extreme heating events, which are also going to impact public health. So what are the local impacts here, and why should we care? Why do we care? So locally, 11.3% of adults in Montgomery County have asthma. The national trend is 8%. So Ohioans are very highly impacted by asthma. From 2010 to 2013, adults, the rate of visits to hospitals for asthma increased by 12%. As far as heart disease goes, Montgomery County, like most of Ohio, is already an unhealthy population that is going to be at higher risk for heart disease. 43% of adults already have high cholesterol, 23% are smokers, and 36% are overweight. So they're already at higher risk factors. So for fuels, what are the trends? What are our local trends? The industrial trend is to move away from coal and more to natural gas and renewable energies. And why is this happening? For us, largely, it's a direct result to US EPA regulations. One, targeting energy generating units, such as DP&L. Other one, targeting industrial boilers. A lot of industrial boilers, up until very, very recently, have used coal primarily as their heat to produce steam for process and heat. So as a direct result of these rules, we're going to see a lot of coal-fired power plants and a lot of coal-fired boilers shifting to natural gas, be decommissioned or just mothballed, put into retirement. primary source of air pollution for this area is going to be mobile sources. As more federal rules come into play, and it's not just the ones that target fuel usage, but and the shift from coal to natural gas, but as other federal rules come into play, industry becomes more tightly regulated, and by and large, we're left with mobile source pollution. And in the future, that's going to be the trend. And so there is an opportunity there also to increase, fuel mileage, clean diesel, cleaner diesel, and also incentives for other, I know we have a natural gas station locally, so there's incentives for that. So finally, what is public health? What is our role in all of this? So the Regional Air Pollution Control Agency, we monitor all of our ambient air, and right now, which is great, we're in attainment for all of the national air quality standards. We also predict and try to forecast when unhealthy air will be, particularly ozone and particulate matter, and we issue air pollution advisories. And those can happen, I will tell you, those can happen in the summer. By and large, the trend has always been the summer because of our ozone, but we also now, because of fine particulate matter that we're regulating, we're issuing them more in the winter. And because in the winter, a lot of people like firewood, and they're, especially locally here, a lot of people burn wood and other things for fuel to heat their homes. And so we can get inversions in the winter. We can get very high particulate matter building up at ground level, and we end up issuing air pollution advisories because it actually reaches unhealthy levels. And we also work closely with regulated local industries. We work with DP&L, we work with White Hat, we work with all the major industrial sources to make sure they're in compliance with federal rules. And finally, this summer, we're going to implement an idle reduction program, which we're very excited about. It goes back to mobile sources, and we're going to target school drop-off zones, and we're going to target susceptible populations. Anybody can introduce an I call it anti-idling, but they've told me not to say that because it sounds very bad, so call it positive, the positive spin on it. It's an idle reduction program, and anybody can implement anything like that. So if anyone has a school or a business or a city or a community wants to implement a program like that, we're gonna start rolling those out this summer. So that's it.
Air Force Research Laboratory. So I want to first start off with some context before I dive into our energy-related work, not only what it means for this region, but for the nation. So I'm from the Air Force Research Laboratory. Our mission is to introduce science and technology into Air Force systems in order to increase our capability in airspace and cyberspace. So those of you around here who've heard the C-130s, occasionally the C-17s, and fighter jets know what the sound of freedom is. But the thing that you may not know is that the Air Force spends approximately 10% of its budget on energy-related activities. So that is aviation, about 80% of that figure. About 17% of that goes to ground vehicles, and the remainder goes to facilities. So I want to thank Ms. Turek for going ahead and getting the facilities out of the way for me, because that's not my area of expertise. Aviation is. So if you sit back and go, wow, I see a lot of aircraft up here. Air Force conducts missions worldwide. We do military engagement. We do search and rescue. We do humanitarian efforts, the Ebola crisis being the most recent, getting supplies and doctors out there as well as bringing folks back. Looking at Superstorm Sandy, anything that happens here in the nation, the Air Force is on call. I said that's about 10% or about 8% of our overall budget. That works out to about 800 million gallons of gas. 800 million gallons of gas. So in the Air Force Research Laboratory and the Air Force overall, we're working on ways that we can improve energy efficiency. Not only to save the money to roll into other things, to increase our capability to do more missions. But because we not only buy fuel here, we buy it worldwide. And that has a national security implication to it. If I'm an enemy and I know your weak spot is when you stop off to top off the tank, I'm going to hit you there. How do I not put soldier, seamen, and airmen in harm's way? So it's not just about saving money for me. It's about protecting our people. It's about protecting our assets and making sure that the fight is unfair for everybody else but us. Hey, it's true. And I make no apologies for that. I want to make sure our folks get in, get out with everything intact, arms, legs, whatnot, brain cells. IEDs account for a lot of different things. So when I talk about it in big picture, what am I really talking about? So, for example, if any of you have seen World War II footage of B-29 Fortresses, they fly in tandem. Air Force got out of the habit of that. We at AFRL have put together an activity where we are reteaching our pilots how to fly in tandem. The first aircraft takes the brunt of the load for consuming energy, but there's a % savings of energy for the one following at about 4,000 nautical miles back. That's a lot. 800 million gallons of gas. I've now topped off 12%. All right, that's great. Not the end of the story. We do a lot of work with fighter aircraft. They have to get in, get out, and make sure either nobody notices them or they can get out more quickly than anything can come and attack them. So we have over $1 billion going toward how do I make better turbine engines that can get me in, get me out, have better range, that are energy efficient. Notice how I let off with the capability and not the energy efficiency? There's a reason for that. I can't ever say no to doing my mission in the Air Force. Oh, I don't feel like it today. No, I didn't get enough sleep last night. No, I don't have enough gas. You're out. You have to do it. The other areas that we look at are in cyber. How do I make those computer chips that all of us love? And how do I make the batteries that none of us love better? We cover a span that helps not only the military business but also commercial industry, making this region a lot more innovative and exciting, not only for the energy engineers, as Greg Smith was saying, but for a lot of other engineers and scientists to be able to do their work. Thank you for your attention.
Well, Rick, I'm the coordinator of the Sustainability, Energy, and Environment program or initiative at UD, and I'm also the research director of the new Hanley Sustainability Institute. And I want to just go through a little bit of what we're doing on the educational side here at UD, and I'm going to broaden it out a little bit beyond energy too, although that's sort of my personal passion. I think there's another bit of the picture that we need to think about too. Several years ago, we started the Sustainability Initiative. It's a minor at the university where we are happy to welcome students from everywhere on campus. School of Business, School of Engineering, the humanities, the arts, the sciences, social sciences. Everywhere on campus we have students who are taking part in the Sustainability, Energy, and Environment minor, and many students on campus doing many other activities as well. It's become one of the most popular minors at the university in the last 5 years or so that we've been offering it, and probably the biggest minor that's freestanding. It's not part of Spanish or communications. It's its own thing, not affiliated with any department. Another piece of that you heard about already are some of the energy programs at UD, the renewable clean energy program, for example. That has been around for about the same amount of time. It has more graduate students than we faculty members know how to deal with. The mechanical engineering department itself, with its undergraduate energy systems concentration, We've had great success. The students from both of those programs go on to either get jobs or they get placed in graduate schools. If they're coming out of undergraduate programs, they get to go to the places they want to go to. And that for us is the success we see, including some of the undergraduates who go on to take graduate courses here and get a graduate degree as well because they like what they saw in their first 4 years. So that's been sort of the background. And for what I want to spend a little bit of time talking about is our newest initiative, which is the Hanley Sustainability Institute. And this came about because of the groundwork that was laid through the C initiative and through the RCL program and many other things on campus. George and Amanda Hanley announced with the university in September a $12.5 million gift to the university to found the Hanley Sustainability Institute. The university committed to matching that amount, both of these over time. It's not a one-time amount that was given. And that leaves us with a lot of work to do, and it leaves us with a big responsibility. We try to live up to the faith that the Hanley Family Foundation put into the university and to continue the kind of work that we've been doing. One of the things, and this is what I see as being so important about this effort, is that the Sustainability Institute looks at a very broad picture of not just energy, but of environmental issues, and we look at it from all different points of view. As much as I love the engineering, and I'm a physicist by training, and I do some climate science things, that's where my background is, but I've become convinced over time that sustainability in a much broader sense needs far more than just a technical background, and that's what we want to do. We have, as part of the Sustainability Institute, we have several different initiatives that we're working on to start with. One of the first ones is an urban agriculture project with East End Community Services and Mission of Mary Farm. So we will be having more and more students are interested in food issues as part of a bigger picture of sustainability. We have the good fortune to have community partners with whom we can work on this, and we will be doing so. We'll be hearing more about that over time. We also are going to be creating new graduate certificates in sustainability. There's work being done on that. Most of the things I'm going to say tonight are in progress at the beginning stages. We are funding research projects on campus for faculty members to become involved in. We will be offering graduate research assistantships. We have a postdoc position open for working with the Sustainability Institute. So we're moving forward on all these different research and academic fronts. We're also going to have a visiting artist for the year next year to work on sustainability issues as well. So we really want to get at this from every point of view we can. One of the things we did do was the university is, as far as I know, the largest university to have made the commitment to divest from fossil fuel resources. And what we need to do now is to step up and start creating more energy, renewable energy on campus, to start living up to that commitment to divest from fossil fuels, but now to create more energy on our own campus. And I think through these programs we will see that this is the way we can help contribute to the future, and so that our students, who are the ones who will be living in that future, will be able to contribute as constructively as possible to what will be big changes. Thank you.
So a big shout out to the students that are here. So thank you for coming and giving your time. And your enthusiasm and ideas continues to push us, and that's what we all need. And it's that real working together collaboratively from each of our disciplines, each of our passions, each of our concerns, that it's the way I think we're going to really build Ohio's energy future together. So I've had the opportunity to work on the ground both as a climate change scientist and doing education with Union of Concerned Scientists and outreach from the Marianist Environmental Ed Center, and also as a person of faith, being part of the Marianist religious community family, and also working on behalf of the interfaith organizations. And what's been really exciting, I don't know if you know it, but the Interfaith Climate and Energy Campaign actually kicked off in Ohio nearly 20 years ago. And as faith communities woke up to the environment being a moral issue and needing to articulate it, perhaps because in previous generations we lived more sustainably naturally in our agrarian lives, that there became that point of really saying that this is a moral responsibility, and climate change was chosen as an issue to really educate the faith community on the environmental responsibility and also given the imminent urgent needs of that. And then really pulling from what I've really seen is the pragmatism of Americans and that desire to really do something and make a difference, and why not save money for your congregation and let that go to other social service needs as well. So just some of the aspects of that, and the religious voice has been important in the debate in terms of public policy as well. About 3/4 of Ohioans identify with a religious tradition. About over half attend a service once a month. So that body working together is an important one. And those of us in this room aren't just one thing or another. Many of us have multiple interests and parts of us. So I just encourage us in working on these energy issues and concerns about efficiency to be of service in congregations you might be a part of, but also know that congregations are really looking for experts and people of goodwill to really help provide that information so that they can grow in their concerns. So some of the organizations that are working statewide, Ohio Interfaith Power and Light, and Bob Downs is in the room who works as a liaison in our region. Bob, you want to raise your hand if anybody's interested in connecting with that. And we've watched the mobilization of good education and good work on creating cool congregations. So there's this cool congregation competition, and people individually and also within their houses of worship. Houses of worships are one of those big traditional energy wasters, those really big buildings. And so the work of the incentive grants and funding to be more energy efficient and to look towards renewables has been really, really appreciated. And in this Archdiocese of Cincinnati, in terms of the Catholic sphere, Jeff Borer is working as the head of facilities, is working a lot on energy efficiency projects, and there'll be a big kind of sustainability education day coming up on the Earth Day weekend. So you can talk to me more about that if you're interested. Some of the common concerns, so despite all of the, we may disagree exactly when and how we got here across all the religious traditions, but all of us have this sense of the responsibility of being good stewards of what's been given, and caretaking, and all the traditions talk about using goods in moderation, only what we need. And also being really concerned about those who are disadvantaged. So it's the concern for those right here in our midst who are experiencing environmental injustices because of disproportionate impacts, but also those health concerns that have already been named, but also thinking about the global impacts that we have. And as a traditional, very technological, innovative state, I'd like to see that energy continue to really move with these new technologies because of our moral responsibility and culpability being a major emitter right here in this state. So what can we do to really reduce that and really be an example? And I think there's a lot of concern about that speaks to people as well.
I'll pick up right where she left off. I'm Jerry Renfro from the McKinley Health Network, Grandview Hospital. We're in business to take care of our community, each one of you in this room. Yes, you do have your choice where to go, but I would share with you we're after the same thing. We care about our community, and we care about the amount of energy that we use. I'm going to talk about geothermal. You've heard some people talk a little bit about that. I'll share with you a project that we did recently at Grandview Medical Center. We happen to be above that aquifer, and so when we got ready to do an expansion in our hospital, we decided that we were going to change, instead of using a standard cooling tower to make the chill water to keep all the equipment and all the people cool inside of our hospitals. And as you all know, we never close. 365, leap year 366, we're there around the clock for you to provide these services. We worked over a year with the city and Ohio EPA and civil and environmental engineering firms. We maintain our existing chill water plant all during this construction. We converted our existing cooling tower chillers to groundwater. We installed 3 600-ton groundwater chillers. These chillers, because we're using groundwater, they require just a little bit more maintenance than the ones that had cooling towers. And when we looked at them, it looked like they were going to have to be opened up and cleaned of the debris that comes from that aquifer about every 3 months. But lo and behold, Europe has come up with a system that we've got, and if somebody's interested, they can talk to me a little bit later. They've got this thing that self-cleans it. It's like a ball technology and cleans it. We only have to open it up about once a year for inspections. So technology keeps helping us to be more efficient with those chillers and to use less energy. We installed 2 redundant 200-foot, 20-inch wells which provide 2,000 gallons a minute. And each chiller uses about 650, and in order to control that, we can use variable speed so we can use less energy when we're operating it. We worked with the city to return the water to the Great Miami River. So after we pull it out of the water, it runs directly to the chillers, no chemicals, goes right under the storm drain, right into the Great Miami River. Picks up about 10 degrees, but it starts losing that 10 degrees between the time it leaves us and before it gets to the river. We do have to pay a fee for doing that. We have to pay about $5,200 to the Ohio EPA. It's regulated. We got to tell about how much water that we're sending to them. And we discharge about $1.2 million gallons of water a day. The existing size of Grandview Medical Center that we're using as geothermal to cool is 423,000 square feet. We expect our annual savings to be about $250,000. We got, at the time, the largest rebate check from PPNL, which we appreciate, for $342,000 for this project. The payback was about 7 years. And we're saving about 1 million kilowatt per year and about 327 kilowatts on demand charges. For those of you that have larger facilities, you know you have to pay a demand charge in addition to that. We've lowered that demand charge by the type of more efficient equipment. And as people have stated, technology keeps changing, and the old stuff that we have, if we replace it with the new technology, in most instances uses a lot less energy. We have thanked already before, and some of those people that have helped us are present here, PPNL, Danish company, TP Engineering, who's our engineering firm, Moody of Dayton, who did the well drilling, Stone Environmental, the City of Dayton, the Ohio EPA, and our facilities staff. I've been in this business for about 33 years. And really, the key to this whole thing is, and I've been in facilities doing this, is the same as you have at your house. If you don't need it, turn it off. And yes, it would be nice to have your house be 95 in the wintertime, like it is maybe in Florida or Southern California, or maybe down south of the equator. But we need to stick with using just the right amount of energy that we need to do the job, and to utilize the technology and educate the people so we can use the least amount of energy to operate our facilities. Thank you.
Okay, last one. First and foremost, I want to congratulate the Flyers on making the tournament. Hope you guys beat Boise State and make it all the way through the tournament so you can play my Kentucky Wildcats. I was born and raised on a horse farm in Kentucky and grew up going to games with my granddad my whole life, so I'm a pretty big Kentucky fan. And I actually live just north of here in Pennsylvania, in central Pennsylvania. I thought I wanted to start out just real quick, kind of ground. I mean, I think everything we've heard tonight to me is really inspiring, just to hear all the solutions and all the activity in energy efficiency, building management, renewables. And it's as inspiring as it all is, the craziest part is we're barely even going to scratch the surface on all these the potential we have for this stuff. So, quick show of hands, don't be shy. Who has heard of the EPA Clean Power Plan? Or 111D, if you're a lawyer, maybe? I'm not supposed to ever say that, don't tell anyone this. I'm supposed to say 111D, it's the Clean Power Plan. So I thought I'd ground it real quick and try and summarize like a 1,000-page regulation in like 90 seconds. Bring it all back to how it's related to the clean energy jobs and all the exciting stuff we've heard about. So once upon a time, there was a rabid environmentalist that was president by the name of Richard Nixon. He signed into law the Clean Air Act back in the early 70s, and a obscure section of that Clean Air Act, what's called 111D, is what the Environmental Protection Agency right now is utilizing to close what is kind of the last big loophole in our existing clean air laws, and that's that there is currently no requirements to address carbon pollution from power plants. 40% of all the carbon emissions in this country are from fossil fuel-fired power plants, and right now there is no limit to how much carbon a power plant can emit. So as a result of some Supreme Court cases and the fact that the EPA is obligated to regulate pollutants to protect public health and welfare, we're now seeing the Clean Power Plan be rolled out. So that was proposed last summer. It essentially sets a target of about a 30% reduction nationally from power plants by 2030. The way the structure of it works is that each state is assigned a target of how much they have to reduce those emissions, and then they really are in the driver's seat to decide how to chase that target. The four building blocks, and I'll make this as painless as possible, that EPA used to set the targets, they assume they have to base it, to be able to defend the regulation in court, you have to show that you did science and modeling to justify that it's a reasonable expectation. So the four blocks they used to set the target, the first one was making coal plants more efficient. So that means tightening the screws, burning coal more efficiently, so you get more electricity per ton of coal burn. Number two is to increase the amount of natural gas capacity that we have in the energy power plant mix already and use it more often. So you're backing out gas, you're backing out coal by using more natural gas. You have about half a ton of carbon per megawatt hour from gas as opposed to a ton from coal. So you're kind of getting some gains that way. And then the real exciting ones are block 3 and 4, which we like a lot. Block 3 is renewable energy increases, and also some maintaining of existing nuclear plants. And then the fourth one is energy efficiency. So all the great technology we've heard about today, building efficiency, et cetera. So again, that's only how they set the target. And so for Ohio, that target's a 28% reduction by 2030. That's the proposed rule. It's going to be finalized over the summer. And then again, at that point, it's really that the governor and the state agencies are tasked with drafting that regulation, finalizing it, and getting it into EPA. As long as they can demonstrate they're going to get that 28% reduction, the state literally has as much flexibility as probably ever happened under a regulation of this size to choose what pathway to get to, right? So we can choose to maximize renewables and maximize efficiency and drive job creation. And from our perspective, that's really kind of what should be central to any state approach. But again, you don't have to take NRDC's word for it. Next question. Who's heard of PJM? And it's not a sandwich. That's not. So, although it could be. But so PJM is the largest transmission and power plant grid in the entire world. It's made up of 13 states and Washington, D.C. Ohio's smack dab in the middle of it. Pennsylvania's a big chunk of it. It goes down to North Carolina. There's a little sliver in Michigan. So it's a huge grid. PJM did some modeling over the past few months and concluded that the cheapest way for states to comply is through two key principles: keep it clean and cooperate. So keeping it clean means the more you utilize efficiency and renewables in your plan and your approach, the cheaper it's going to be to comply. And you actually can see net benefits in how you comply. Cooperate means that, as you guys have probably noticed, the power doesn't stop at the state border, right? Power flows across states. And so the more that states work together and submit plans jointly or just agree to link up as how they reduce pollution, the cheaper it's going to be for everybody instead of having 50 different state plans. So, I'll finish up now because I've already gone over, but just by a tad bit. So PJM is going to be testifying actually Wednesday at the next Senate Bill 310 hearing on the freeze. And so I think it'll be interesting to hopefully hear them convey to legislators that precisely when the programs that were already cost effective, that were already creating jobs, that were already improving public health, guess what? We just put a big layer of icing on top because now we got to comply with the Clean Power Plan. And that's just when these programs got frozen. And so hopefully we'll hear that message from PJM. Again, it's not a crazy environmental organization. They run the grid. They're completely independent. So anyway, I'll close with that and just urge folks to kind of bring it back because it does get kind of abstract and crazy when you start talking about acronyms and Clean Air Act and stuff. At the end of the day, It's going to be up to your elected officials to make these decisions and determine what path Ohio takes. Is it going to be one that maximizes clean energy and public health and jobs, or some other pathway that I won't get into?
Okay, well, we had a very diverse panel here. We had energy and pollutants, energy and national security, education, religion, healthcare, and ended with the NRDC talking about the clean power plants. So, who's got questions? We've got quite a few. How about way in the back here?
What can local municipalities do to ensure energy efficient standards in their community aggregation plans, considering the state's rollback of energy efficient standards?
Interesting. Any takers on that?
I would chime in with the following. I think we've heard the answer already, and it's that we know that energy efficiency is the cheapest form of energy, and therefore just getting that message out there. It's not even a matter of changing regulations as much as it is talking to your elected officials on a local scale and trying to figure out ways through your neighbors and your other people in your community to implement energy efficiency, because there are these programs available to get rebates. There are incentives for businesses to do this. There are incentives for companies to sign up from our Industrial Assessment Center to get audits. All of that becomes a no-brainer in the sense that it's just saving money. And so I think that it should just be out there. That message has to be out there. I have less confidence in trying to come up with big plans on a state level for that. Because we have that, and we just need to go ahead.
Let me ask Jackson. We're talking about a regulation that comes down in the community. The programs we had in Ohio to do low-cost compliance with that have been frozen. There's uncertainty. What could a community do? I mean, for Ohio's communities like the city of Dayton, what should they be thinking of if the state's not taking that leadership position?
Right, so I'm going to get a little bit outside of my regulatory and statutory comfort zone. I have not read the local codes and regulations for Dayton or anywhere else, but typically most state structures have kind of the minimum state building code that's in place. But I don't believe there's a statutory prohibition in Ohio from going further. And that at the municipal level, in most states I've operated in, there's nothing stopping a municipality that wants to go further from essentially adopting a stretch code. You'd have to go through the appropriate processes, but that's very much a local decision. And what's really fascinating about that is, as I mentioned, those building blocks that set the target, that doesn't mean that things like building codes or all kinds of other stuff we haven't even thought of can't contribute to helping demonstrate compliance with the Clean Power Plan. So you could theoretically have a situation where a municipality, by pushing building codes that are more efficient and tracking what carbon reductions are attributable to that, could in fact have a compliance value that you can actually ultimately down the road sell to a utility to demonstrate compliance with the Clean Power Plan. So I mean, there's potential, almost like a commodity from that energy savings that you would get. And I think municipalities that want to be more forward-thinking could establish those stretch codes and explore with stakeholders a way to adopt and implement.
Thanks. I think we had Barbara John.
Okay, we once played a game in a tax class where we eliminated all taxes and we built a perfect tax code. So I want, in particular, to imagine, okay, Ohio, we've beamed up all the plants. We have nothing, coal, nukes, nothing. I want to know how viable it is for us to generate all the electricity we need, or even more energy, using wind and because I really don't have a sense of how viable, given the current state of technology, it is to work on renewables. Like, given current renewable technology, could we cover Ohio with windmills and the deed is done? Or would that come up short? I mean, that's what I'm really asking you to be visionary.
Can we do it all? Jump ball. It looks like Bob's going for it.
I'll start by just saying, we aren't getting all our coal from Ohio right now, so some of this can come from elsewhere. So let's just start there. We can build things here using our innovation. Let's not go.
And I think that's true. I think but even if you would broaden that to sort of the region instead, I think I mean, it's clearly possible, but it's challenging to do it only with the renewables like wind and solar because of the obvious fact that they're not around all the time. So, but with combinations of, and I still say, energy efficiency, reducing the amount of energy we need dramatically.
I just want to generate. I just want to look at generation.
But if I'm gonna even go in that direction, I've got to cut down the energy use first. But then we can do the wind and solar, but you're going to need some sort of management of demand, so shifting that demand around, and you're going to need some storage. And you probably will need something like, I mean, don't forget that there are other renewables like using biomass to generate electricity, to burn in combustion to generate electricity. And there are other things that are not fluctuating. So once you get some kind of a baseline of renewables, plus the fluctuating renewables, efficiency, demand management, and some storage of different kinds, it's possible.
Yeah. So I mean, just to,
Let me just jump back on, let me make sure I understand your question. Everything goes away and we're starting from ground zero?
Yeah, just clean slate.
So we have no manufacturing capabilities at this point. We have no manufacturing capabilities at this point because all the manufacturing facilities that I currently work with run on electricity or nuclear or anything else. So what you're really asking is with what we have right now, how much of our electrical needs can we address? And my oversimplistic answer, since this is not my area of expertise, is not enough.
But I think what she's asking is keep the same industry base, but just switch the whole energy system out, right? Is that what you're talking about, Barbara?
I'm just imagining perfect,
Utopian Ohio.
you know, if we covered all of Ohio with windmills, would that still not be enough? I don't even have a sense of how capable.
You wouldn't have to do that.
And you could.
Yeah, that's right. So what am I talking? What to give up what, Lima? What am I talking?
right. So I mean, I think one thing just to kind of ground it is that there's been that kind of potential analysis done as far as what the resource is.
Yeah.
But the more important thing is, like I said before, electricity is on top of the border of Ohio. And so the key strength, I'm saying, but the key strength, I mean, I know you said it's just hypothetical, but
In Nevada.
that's the great thing is that you have resources. Maybe there's more wind potential in Iowa. Maybe there's more solar in certain parts of Ohio. So you combine that in a portfolio approach, and you absolutely can first energy efficiency and knock 20% off what you even need. And then you have a build out of all those technologies. And yeah, could you do it today or tomorrow? No. Could we probably get there by 2030? Technology is showing us that we probably can't. And there's things we haven't even developed yet that are going to play a key part. The really good news is, we don't, for purposes of the EPA Clean Power Plan, not to get back to that, if we just unfroze SB 310, we would get to the EPA target without changing anything. It's so feasible and doable. And so hopefully we can do that first, and then I'd love to talk about the rest of it.
Yeah, and I'll have to say, and before we move to the next question, there's some folks in the room, I'm looking in the back corner, I think, but that we've worked with some students to look at this at UD. What would it take to take an entire community in gas, electric, fuel, move it over to renewable energy, and how much footprint do you need? So I think that's one of the benefits of having a renewable and clean energy program on campus, is if you have a whole group of students that can help you look at that. And if I don't let Brother Phil ask a question here, I might be in trouble. So Brother Phil, what's your question?
For Jerry, I'm wondering what the state sustainability of something going down the water into the river every day. Have you thought of another use for that water, or using it so that it's not wasted?
I've looked at it, I haven't got to it yet, talking about using it for irrigation, some of that water for irrigation, not a whole lot of it, because that's a lot of water that's passing through. So that's one thing that you could use for.
Seems like if you had many of these systems in the city, that the aquifer was starting to get depleted.
There's a lot of them in the city that are already using geothermal, a lot of businesses.
Well, and what's the capacity of the aquifer for having a number of geothermal places?
With the business that had left from the last consultant that I talked to, there's more water than you could ever use, but you have to be above, on that aquifer. If as an example, I got a facility at Southview, I'm not sitting on the aquifer, I can't use the aquifer, I'd end up having to pump the water, so You have to find out where the resource is. Somebody was talking about wind blows in certain currents in certain areas that are high wind. We got water that's a big reservoir that we'll never run out of here in Dayton unless they would have an extreme drought. As whoever said, the global warming is going to warm everything up. Then we might get to that point. At the present time, last thing they said, we had plenty of water underground. I worked at the Dayton Art Institute, told them to drill another well so they would have backup so we can continue to use geothermal Dayton Art Institute as well.
But the big, I mean, I think the question that this gets to though is that we need to be careful as we're moving to these new energy systems to look at all these other questions too, to think about them carefully, to not make mistakes.
Can't you just re-inject it?
But you can put it back in the ground.
It goes there.
Yeah.
The river
Eventually,
goes down,
it all flows out.
plates, the recharge basins down there in the rain.
We had a question in the back here, and then we'll do the gentleman in the blue. So back first, yes.
There are a question about municipalities and encouraging alternative energy. You can sign up for wind energy through your DPNL. Well, DPNL doesn't offer it right now, but they have where you can contract with someone else, another company, and sign up for wind.
This is true, and I will make a plug. In fact, if you go to the Green Energy Ohio website, you'll get guided to a location where for your residents, if you sign up for wind, you can get 100% wind, and GEO will get a $30 donation, which they would probably be very appreciative of. And let's do one more question here in the blue.
I think the federal law that you're talking about is about regulating and reducing CO2, is that correct? Okay, and a lot of time, and one of those ways to do it is continue to use more nuclear power. And there's a lot of conversation here where they're apparently limiting their choices to renewable, solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, things like that. I think it'd be a big mistake to eliminate from consideration nuclear. It
Yep.
does not make CO2.
Right, so there's nothing in the rule that eliminates nuclear power. It's absolutely, again, part of the overall target.
Yeah.
I would just caution that based on the cost overruns that we've seen and experienced, there's a reason there's only 2 nuclear plants being built in the United States and why many have been shelved, and it's purely dollars and cents.
Yeah.
As far as how much per ton mitigation cost is building a new nuclear plant versus energy efficiency or even renewables. So that it's a cost issue, but there's nothing in the rule that would stop the state if they decided that was the way they wanted to go.
No, right.
That would be allowed.
But worldwide, right now today, there's a nuclear power plant coming online every week. The Chinese aren't stupid. They got 50 of those 65 under construction today in China.
But right now, England decided to build 2 new nuclear power plants, and to get that built, they had to guarantee double the cost of electricity for 40 years of the current cost of electricity. It's really expensive.
Okay, so I get the job of wrapping us up. We're getting close to 8 o'clock. We're gonna wrap up. I'm determined as moderator to keep us close on time. We had one in the first round, so I just wanted to sum up. We heard a lot of things from the panelists today, and I know there wasn't a primer before you came in, but there's some important topics discussed. There was mention of Senate Bill 310. We didn't do a straw poll on that, but that's something that a law that was passed freezing our renewable and energy efficiency standards. We're fortunate that some of the utilities are continuing with energy efficiency. But that's being debated at the State House right now in a study committee ongoing. It was mentioned PJM will be there next week, so that's something to take note of. The EPA Clean Power Plan, or EPA 111D, is something that carbon regulations that we may face as a state. PJM, which maybe is a new term for a lot of people, but it's to a company like mine, it's probably one of the more important entities out there. There's as many, if not worse, attacks on energy efficiency and consumer-based resources and renewable energy at PJM. That's something no one's heard of, but it's in a very important body. But above all those moving parts, I think what we had in this panel and the previous panel is we heard I think great stories about leadership. I love hearing about what the Air Force and other branches of the military are doing because they have some of the most aggressive goals on energy. We heard a lot from businesses. Our first panel was all businesses located in Dayton. And businesses, the wheels of business, I think often move faster and more targeted than those of government policy. And so we can be thankful for that. Technology as well moves quickly. We've got a lot of research at Wright-Patterson here in the area, and then also at UDRI and UD. And education, what a strong suit we have here. And it's great to see UD leading. And as an alumni, I'm very proud of what's happening and to see the students here. But we have a lot of great universities in Ohio. We have 14, 15 engineering schools. So I think we're primed as a state to lead on that. And then lastly, I'm glad that the wind energy choice came up because there's a lot of people here. Individual decisions matter. Consumer choices, the consumer voice, whether it's you're calling your legislator or making a choice on how you purchase electricity, or speaking up at your business to work with some of the other businesses that were up here. Those all matter. And our voices here, I'll remind you, this is Ohio. So we've got great basketball teams, but we also have the attention of the country when it comes to things like this. So your voices and your thoughts matter on this and are magnified. So you might ask, well, what can I do about it? There's probably a lot of things you can do about it, but I know that Ohio's Energy Future Tour would like you to sign a pledge, and I'll read it for you. It's not that scary, but it says, renewable energy and energy efficiency are growing the economy in Ohio, creating jobs, generating tax revenue, and protecting public health and the environment. Sign here to tell Ohio's leaders to support these cost-competitive technologies as part of a new energy vision for the Buckeye State. And so if you're up to it, we welcome you to sign the pledge. We have them in the back. They are being passed around. And someone has to type them in, so if you do sign, please use your best handwriting so they can read it.
It's also on the website, the tour website, the Ohio Energy Future Tour website, and it's on the Ohio Environmental Council's website as well.
Okay, and as an alumni of UD, I think I wanted to end by saying what a great way to have to make the voices stronger by having diversity and having a discussion in an inclusive table that feels very Marianist to me. So very proud as an alumni to be at this event. So thank you for your time today, and I'll end with good night and go Flyers. Thank you.